Okay. Well, good morning. I'm Julie Baker. I don't know all of you on here, but I probably know your coaches. So you're all part of Team Baker. So thank you for being on here today. And we're going to start with chapters 1 and 2 on habits of health. So, and then we're going to go through lesson 1 in our workbook, and we'll do it together. So no guilt if you didn't have time to read this week or anything like that. We're going to go through it together. That's why we're doing it. So go ahead and open up your book to page 3. Just by a show of hands, anybody learn anything new this week? Every single time, I've even read it before, every single time I still am like, oh my gosh, highlight, right? Highlight, circle, underline, star, all of that in the book. Okay, so chapter 1 is just talking about it's not your fault that you're struggling with your weight. I think that's like a reliever almost to most people. Okay, I'm sure there are things that we change, but the science behind how our bodies was made, I really think is just fascinating. And so that's part of the reason why I wanted to go through this whole study, is because I love to learn. And I really feel like that's how you change, is when you learn something. It's one thing to just do it and then go back to how things were before. But when you learn, you're different. You now know something. So, okay, so basically we learned about how our bodies are made, right? How God designed our bodies to be. And way back when, people had to hunt for their food. So we don't have to hunt for our food. That's why it's so easy for us now. We can go to the grocery store, we can get fast food. It's super easy to get our food. But back then, they didn't know maybe next time when their next meal was going to be. So if they found food, or if they found an animal to kill, they would eat it all at once because they didn't know when they were going to get food next. So I just like how they're talking about, how it used to be and how it is now. So Christmas, how the world has changed over time. Okay, so did anybody read the part, the supersized generation is what it says. It says, you probably noticed in the past 20 years that serving sizes have gotten bigger and bigger, right? We talked about this last week. Restaurant portions are now as much as 8 times the standard serving size in the FDA guidelines. 8. What? That was just insane. That was crazy. And, when you grow up like that, that's what you think is correct, right? You go out to eat. Oh, there's my food. I need to eat it all. And I know something that we've talked about just with Take Shape for Life, one of our tips or secrets is that if you go out to eat, is to ask for a to-go box right away. So when you order your food, ask for a to-go box when you get it, and literally put half of what they give you in the to-go box so that you aren't tempted to just sit there and eat the whole plate. And then that way you have it for another meal, and then it's hopefully more portion size towards the correct amount. Anybody ever done that? I started to do that, and I love it because now I'm like, oh, good. It just changes your mindset a little bit about how much you're supposed to be eating. I just can't believe that, though. 8 sizes. That's just crazy. And then it also talks about how the food industry, I'm on page 5 of Habits of Health, if you're following along, how the food industry sabotages your health, right? Basically, the amount of sugar that is in our food is just crazy. Okay, so for an example, I went and pulled something out of my pantry this morning. Okay, so these are Nature Valley biscuits. And, they boast that they have lots of whole grains and like good for you stuff, right? Okay, if you read the nutritional facts on the side, there's calories aren't too bad, but there's 11 grams of protein in one of these little, or not protein, 11 grams of sugar in one of these little biscuits. There's only 3 grams of protein. And on the ingredients, if you look at ingredients, whole grain oats is the first one. Okay, that's good. Second one, sugar. Yes, because there's 11 grams of sugar in this itty bitty cracker that's this big. So a lot of this chapter is talking about what is in our foods that we're currently eating. Now, if you go get your Medifast meal replacement and you look at the nutritional facts on the side, there is 11 grams of protein and very low sugar, and it has a very different nutritional value than most things that are sold at the grocery store. Just basically this chapter talks a lot about what we're eating. Okay, so on page 7, where it talks about our daily caloric balance. Okay, so they make it simple for us. They spell it out. Okay, obesity is basic math. It's taking in more calories than we are burning, right? Because way back when people had to hunt for their food, it was different. Now it's easy. You can literally call for pizza and have it delivered at your house. That takes like 2 calories to pick up the phone. You burn 2 calories by calling in pizza and walking to the door and having it delivered, and then you eat 2,000 worth of calories in your pizza. So expenditure in versus expenditure out is very different. So we can kind of look in our workbook too, because that's what it talks about. So we're chapter 1, Your Changing World in the Living a Longer, Healthier Life. These kind of, they go together, they correlate. So chapter 1 talks about chapters 1 and 2. I'm sorry, lesson 1 talks about chapters 1 and 2 in the book. So, so on page 4, if you flip the page, here's what it says. Compare your daily food choices with your daily activities for the course of the day. Now I'm gonna have you guys do this today, if you can. You're gonna write down everything that you eat or drink throughout the day. Now I know a lot of you are on our programs, so you're gonna write down meal replacements, right? And lean and green and good healthy choices. But you can think about what you would have written down when you were not on program and what you were eating and how much you were eating. And then it has, what was your energy expended for the day? Exercise, sports, are you, working out, however much energy you're expending. Now, most of us pre-program, pre-Take Shape for Life, were probably eating a lot. You could list a lot on the category of food and drink ingested, especially drink, okay? Because I used to be a soda drinker. Anybody else? Okay. And soda, I am not anymore. Yay. I still drink coffee. That's important. I have children. I have to survive. But soda, we don't drink anymore at all. But you're drinking your calories when you drink soda, and there's sugar and so much yucky other stuff in there. So, but I know my husband too was a huge soda drinker. Like, he would drink 3 to 4 cans of Dr. Pepper a day. He will admit that to you. And so, I mean, think about how much, just even that you're putting in that column every single time that you would drink soda. So it really makes you think about what you're putting in your body and how much energy you're actually spending. So you want to do that today. You can write down everything that you eat. And some of you, I know a couple of you just started on programs, so you might actually be using your food journal that came in the folder that you got in your box, and where you write down everything that you eat, and it helps you track your water and all of that stuff. If you haven't, I just encourage you to maybe keep doing that, because sometimes we forget. Maybe you're transitioning, maybe you're off plan, maybe you're maintaining your weight. I know everybody on here is at a different place. Sometimes we just forget all the things that we're consuming during the day. So I think that would be a good activity to do. Okay, so on the next page in our workbook, page 5, talks about losing muscle. Okay, did anybody else freak out about this? Okay, so basically it talks about, how as we get older, we can eat the same things that we ate when we were like 18. And I'm in my mid-30s, by the way. I know people think I'm like 22, but I'm a little bit older than they think. So every year after you're 20, you lose a pound of muscle. And I read that and I was like, no, that's why when you're 35, 40, you start gaining weight, because you're eating the same way you were eating when you were 18. And then you think, oh, I'm not 18 anymore. Yeah, because your body's changing and you're losing your muscle mass and you can't keep up. You might be eating the same things, but your body is changing. So there's a little chart on page 5 in your workbook where it says fat accumulation in and out, and as you get older, how it kind of declines. It was leveled out, and then it declines as you get older. And that's just the way that our bodies were made. So we have to change what we're eating, right? If our bodies are going to decline in muscle, we have to change what we're putting in. So then it said, according to our diet, if you eat a diet that's high glycemic, high fat, high in salt, high in chemicals, you're putting all that stuff in your body. Talks about high fructose corn syrup. I know it talked a lot about that in the book. We're also going to talk about reading labels a little bit too, like I read the label on this. I know if you're on the 5-in-1, you might not have to read so many labels because you got your meal replacements, so you're good to go. But it is a very good thing to start being aware of what's inside the things that we put in our mouths. Even for our kids, I have 2 little girls. They're 4 and 7. One has really bad food allergies. And so I always have to read the labels. I've always had to because she's got egg allergies and peanuts and all that stuff. So I've gotten used to reading the labels. But what I have noticed is everything has high fructose corn syrup in it. And it's so frustrating, right? Even bread. Like I have certain brands now that I buy because if you just buy, oh, this looks good. It says whole wheat, whole grain, something. You grab it, you read the label, it has high fructose corn syrup in it, which is basically just refined sugar is what that's a fancy word for. But it talks about too how it kind of makes food addicting and you want more and you eat more. You know, if it's a bag of chips or cookies. I don't know if anybody's ever had the problem, you know, I can't just eat one. I end up eating the whole bag is because of what's inside of it. The ingredients that are in it is they make it addicting on purpose. And it goes a little bit more into that in the book, just about food companies and things like that. But really start reading your labels, especially the things that your kids are eating too, because I know that that's a big deal. So, okay, so we're going to switch back. Oh, wait, no, we're not. We're going to stay on page 5 of our workbook. Okay, so this is another thing that we're going to do today. Page 5, exercise at the very bottom of the page. So you're going to read the labels of everything that you're putting in your body. Beginning at 0, you're going to tabulate your score. Okay, so basically, if it doesn't include one of the 4 components listed above, which are the high glycemic, fat, salt, chemicals, then you add 1 to your score. So you're basically going to keep track of how your score is for the day. So like I said, if you're on the 5-in-1, this is going to be a little bit different. Maybe do it for your kids, okay? We're just going to do this to be more aware of what we are eating and the ingredients that are in things. Okay, so I bought a thing of orange juice the other day, Walmart brand, like pulp-free orange juice, 24 grams of sugar in orange juice. Most of the time we think orange juice is a healthy option, right? It's got lots of calcium and vitamin C, 24 grams of sugar in a serving. That's insane, you guys. So we consume so much sugar that we don't even think about. Okay, so we're gonna switch back to the book and just talk about, I just wanted to hit on page 11. I want to talk about working out because this is where it talks a little bit about the 2 components of how we lose weight, diet and exercise. And I don't know about you, but I know a lot of people who work out like crazy and are still having a hard time losing weight. And maybe you've been one of those people. Maybe you've been a gym junkie and you've been there 2 hours every day. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to lose weight. And you really focus more on working out and exercise than you do on diet. And so that's kind of what this part of the chapter talks about. Okay, if you look on page 11 in the book, it says to lose weight through exercise alone, you need to work out strenuously, which means getting that heart rate up and sweating for 90 minutes every day. Every day. I don't know about you guys, but I don't know that I have 90 minutes every day to work out. That's, we have a lot going on. We're busy. That's a lot of time. Now, exercise is certainly a part of being optimally healthy and something that we want to incorporate. However, if it swings too high on the exercise end of things, you're not going to lose weight as effectively. So, we definitely want to do the 80-20. It's 80% diet, 20% exercise. So you can't reach 100 without exercise. It's important to have that in there. But if you go to the gym for 90 minutes a day, and then you go to McDonald's on your way home, and then you eat junk food and go to 7-Eleven and that's not a healthy, optimal life. So it takes a lot of balance in here. So speaking of optimal health, turn the page, chapter 2. What is the definition of optimal health? On page 12, it says in the little green sidebar, what do we mean by optimal health? And it's different for everybody. Optimal health is the highest degree of health that's possible for you to achieve. So I like that. I like that optimal health is individual for each person. It's not, this, and this, and you're good to go, because everybody's body is made differently. Everyone is a different person. And so optimal health is the highest degree of health that's achievable for you. So to me, that's really encouraging, is that, okay, I know that there's guidelines that I need to go by, but it's different for me than it is for you. And so chapter 2 talks a lot about sick and healthy, sick and non-sick and healthy, and what the difference is. So what is the difference between non-sick and healthy? And pretty much it just means, most of us probably maybe before a program would have just fallen into the non-sick category. There might have been some people that fell into the sick category. Maybe you have some health issues, but non-sick and healthy are two different. I think sometimes people think just because I'm not, I'm not on medications and I don't have anything really wrong with me, I must be really healthy. But that is not necessarily true. 90% of us fall into the non-sick category, so not necessarily healthy. So on page 13, it says, ask yourself questions every day. Is my health improving every day? Is it getting better? Are my daily habits creating greater health and vibrancy, or are they draining my battery and putting me on an accelerated path towards disease? Am I already in a non-sick or sick state? How do you know if you're non-sick? In the column on the right-hand side in the green, it has, when are you non-sick? When you're non-sick, you're not healthy or ill, but somewhere in between. You may be non-sick if you're overweight, if you're not sleeping well, if you are fatigued, weak or flabby, stressed out, taking lots of over-the-counter medications. Anybody relate to any of those, right? Okay, I know for sure. My husband was the one that went on plan. So I did the plan for like a week or two so I could coach. I was already at a healthy weight, but I really benefited from learning healthy habits. Love the energy of fat burn. Loved how the program works, all that. But I do know that my husband for sure was not sleeping well ever, was super fatigued, had no energy, was stressed out, and took Tylenol like nonstop because he always had a headache or always like just didn't feel good. So I think those are trigger signs. Do you know anybody? I mean, maybe that's you, but maybe you can say, yeah, my friend is always saying that she has a headache or that she's always tired or those things. Sometimes we don't connect those necessarily with being healthy. We just think they have a lot going on, or, they're really busy or whatever. But when you start to connect those things together and say, okay, they have a lot to do with your health. And really just overall taking care of yourself, which I think sometimes as women we're bad at doing. Anybody else not so good at taking care of themselves? We put everybody else first, and then we put ourselves last. And I posted even on Facebook this past week of Nina Poole. She is a friend of mine who is in Take Shape for Life as well. She's a coach. But her post was really big. That's exactly what it talked about, is what I would tell my former self. I'm sorry that I didn't take care of you. I'm sorry that I took care of everybody else first and not you, because in the long run, it made it so much harder for me to be the person that God wanted me to be. And I was like, yes, that is it. That is it right there. We need to take care of ourselves. That doesn't mean that we can't take care of other people too, but we need to make it a priority that we do take care of our own health. It's huge. Okay, so turn the page to Habits of Health Overview. And that's really what the book is about, and what we're going to get into next week is really more of the habits. Okay, so habits, page 14 in the book, habits of healthy eating, habits of moving your body, strategic behavioral habits. That's good. We're going to get into that stuff. Habits of support through vitamin nutrients, habits of reducing inflammation, habits of good sleep, creating a positive environment. That's a big one for your health. And habits of support. So all these will go through chapters in the book, specifically focusing on these things. So we will go through each one of those together. So I'm going to have you go in your workbook. We're going to do this part together. Speaking of habits, so it's page 6 in your workbook. There's a checklist. We're going to take a few minutes and go through this if you haven't done it already. It is the part that says obesogenic versus leptogenic. Okay, so what do those mean? Obesogenic means habits that, things that make you obese or overweight. Leptogenic choices are things that make you thin or healthy. And so there's a list here of a lot of different things. So if you are currently doing these things, I want you to, it says put a star next to the good choices and an X next to the poor choices. I would say if you're doing them, even if they're good or bad, put a star or a check mark or something next to them. And then we'll go through and see which ones are good and bad and which ones that you're doing. So go ahead and take a few minutes, star the ones that you are currently, these are habits in your life. Okay. You guys done? I see a couple people still writing. Okay, so how did everybody feel about how they did on this? Does anybody want to share? I see Katie's face. Oh, not as good as maybe I wanted. Anybody want to come off mute?
I'll come off you mute.
Okay.
Y'all hear me? Yeah, going through this was a little difficult because because of my physical condition, I have to take a nap every day, a 2-hour nap, because my body degenerate. It in the morning I'm good for a couple of hours, but by noon or 1 o'clock I'm like gone. I have to take a 2-hour nap, and I'm like, that's a minus? Oh man. So I need to get better at it to where I don't need a nap anymore.
Yep. Well, and some of it, if it's a health issue, we.
It is, but it isn't, because
But
my
it might be
fatigue level is low.
that you could reverse, right? That happens.
Yeah, exactly.
For life. So, anybody else? Everybody can star the choosing healthy-minded friends because you're on this Zoom this morning. Yay! Give yourself a star or a check mark. Yeah, there's a lot of things on this list. And I think if we're really being honest with ourselves, there's probably a lot of things that we could do better. But I think sometimes we just don't know what to do. So that's why this is so great, because it's showing us and helping us. Okay, so in the bottom box, it'll say, what new healthy habits do you intend to adopt as you work towards optimal health? So go ahead and write down some things that maybe you didn't check off in the list, but that you want to be doing. You know that you want to get to that point. It might not be next week or next month, but you know that eventually you want to be doing more of those things. I know a lot of these things I used to do, right? I'm looking on here. I used to just have coffee for breakfast. Yep, guilty of that one. I used to only get like 4 to 5 hours of sleep. So there's things that I used to do that I don't anymore. So that's a good thing. Oh, used to drink soda. Yep. Okay, and then if you've done that part, turn the page. It says, what unhealthy habits do you want to leave behind? So if there's still things that you checked off that you're doing that have a negative sign next to them, maybe you watch TV after 10 o'clock every night. Lots of people are guilty of that, okay? The deal with TV is that my husband always jokes at me that I'm anti-TV. I'm not anti-TV. I don't watch much. And the reason for me is because it distracts me from getting like anything done. Like I know myself, and I know that I could just veg in front of the TV forever and ever. And so I had to stop myself from that habit like a while ago. I did. And so I'm not anti-TV. I just don't watch it much because I know that because that's a bad habit of mine. So I have to like stay away from it. So, but a lot of us will watch TV late at night because, maybe we have a hard time sleeping. And TV actually makes it harder for you to go to sleep. It makes your mind keep going and all that kind of stuff. So maybe that's something that you want to stop doing. Maybe you want to eat more fish. I know that's one on there if you like fish to do, or start tracking your steps and things like that. So on the opposite page, write some things that you want to start doing and then things that you want to leave behind. Having a midday candy bar. Luckily, MetaFast bars don't count as candy bars. They taste like candy bars, but you can eat them.
I have to say, I don't really know how to put my face up there. I don't know if it's up there or not.
No, we see you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
When I did this, I thought it was pretty interesting. I took the approach of what I was doing or not doing before I started the plan. I'm only like Sunday will be a month in.
Okay.
And it was not good. And then I took the approach of doing what I'm doing now versus to what I was doing before. And that was actually what is the word I'm looking for? Motivating. That I am heading towards that. So I thought that was pretty neat to just kind of compare the two.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Yeah. And so hopefully none of you are discouraged by this. Hopefully you're encouraged, like Barbara, just to know that I am making changes. Maybe it's being on program, and that's helping me really be aware of what I was doing. And I think that's probably the biggest thing about our programs, is that it makes you so aware of what you were doing, so aware of your habits. And, a lot of it might have to do with how you were raised, maybe the habits growing up or how your house was when you were younger has made you do certain things. Or maybe it's just your environment and your situation of where you are right now. Like I said, I have 2 small children. So I found myself a lot of times just eating whatever they didn't eat. It wasn't even that I was hungry or really even that I, didn't want to throw it away. It was just more like, oh, well, they didn't finish eating it, so I'll just eat it. And a lot of mindless eating, So I really think that going through this and really, just our programs in general help us be more aware of what we're doing on a daily basis and making those conscious decisions. So that kind of goes into page 16 on the book, where it talks about our daily choices. So there's a picture of this guy on the side stuffing his mouth full of French fries, I think. Page 16 in the book, and it says, 1 cheeseburger doesn't kill you. It's making those negative choices day after day, year after year, that add up to poor health, disease, and premature death, right? I mean, going out to eat and eating junk food one time, it's not going to kill you. And sometimes that's our mentality, until you realize that you've been doing that for how long? How many years have you been doing that? How often are you doing that? And it just compounds, that is one of my favorite illustrations, is on page 17, where it talks about the art of compounding. Okay, so if someone gives you a choice and they said, today I will write you a check for $1 million, or so you can take that, or I will give you a penny today and I will double it every single day for like the whole month, like 31 days. What would you pick? Most people would pick the $1 million, right? Because I think, oh, I need $1 million. Yes, that's perfect. They don't think a penny, that's ridiculous. It would take forever to get somewhere. Till you realize that if you did the penny, it's $10 million if you add it up. And why is because you're compounding. It's compounding over time. And we do the same thing with our health. When we make those daily choices every day, we don't think of it that way. We think of it as a penny. Oh, it's small. It's just, it's not a big deal, until it adds up and adds up and adds up. And before you know it, you're overweight. And then you're obese. And then you have diabetes. And then your doctor is yelling at you saying, you have to do something. And so it's really our daily choices that is what makes or breaks us. So, and we're going to talk about that as we go through the chapter of habits. We're going to talk about that. It also talks about, risks of things like pills and even gastric bypass, all this kind of stuff. And maybe some of you have had that surgery, but it said, there's always side effects to shortcuts that we take. Some of you might have a history with those things, but Dr. Anderson even says, I'll be so bold as to say that no breakthrough drug is on its way that can cure obesity. It's what we put into our bodies. And so until we can kind of wrap our head around that, it's, of course, there's always going to be the latest thing out there. I mean, there's always the latest fad diet. And I know probably a lot of you have tried everything in the world that's out there and not had success, or maybe you have had success, but what happened was you ended up gaining your weight back. And I think that is really what makes the difference between Take Shape for Life and so many other things, is just that we're teaching people how to change how they think about food, and that's healthy mind, right? We sometimes have a not healthy perspective of how we view food. And I know we talked a little bit about that last week, but I think that's probably some of my main motivation for going through all this information, is that we want to have a healthy mind, because you can get your body healthy. You can be in awesome, healthy on the BMI chart, but if your mind isn't healthy about food, that is why you go back to gaining your weight back, is it's up here. And it's so powerful how we think about food and how we view those things and our habits. And you can kind of see, so on page 18, it has this chart, little rainbow-like chart, that talks about the path to optimal health. Okay, so optimal health is different for everyone. We talked about that. And you can see that phase 1 is beginning the weight loss phase. So that is just phase 1. Phase 2 is incorporating the habits of health. We're starting to do that. We're going through the books, the educational materials, and building muscle. Phase 3 is optimizing your health. And phase 4 is longevity. And so you can see the BMI in the middle actually goes down as you're incorporating each one of these things. But most people think that getting to healthy weight is the pinnacle. You know, I get to healthy weight and I'm done. And then they don't realize that there's so much more that goes into it. Maybe you have reached a healthy weight and then you quit. And then you started doing all the same things that you did before, right? You go back to not eating breakfast and drinking coffee all day and not eating food. And then you just realize that you're gaining your weight back because you didn't change how your body and how your mind views food. So weight loss is just the beginning. There's so much more, incorporating healthy habits, optimizing your health, longevity, because I know you guys are on here today because you want long-term health, right? You're not just in this for a diet to lose your weight and be done. You want long-term health. And so congrats for doing that. You are doing that. Okay, so next week, what we're going to do is, I'm going to take questions and we'll talk in just a minute. But so next week, lesson 2 and 3 in your workbook is a lot of filling in the blanks. There's a lot of things you can do, but there's no reading assignment that is with it. So, but it is quite a few pages of filling things in. So if you have time this week and you can start working on lesson 2 and 3 in your workbook, go ahead and start doing that. We're going to go through it next week, but I don't know that we're going to have enough time to fill out every single blank because there's a lot of stuff in here. And this is fun stuff, you guys. This is, I call it like the dreaming chapter, because it'll say, you know, what do you want to be able to do? What are some things that you haven't done before that because of your weight or because of your health that you have not done, but you want to? And it'll have you fill those things out. And so this is like fun homework, okay? This is not grueling stuff. If you don't have time to do it this week, that's okay. We're going to still go through it together next week. And it talks about habits. What are your habits? And so you might notice this week, like even just one of them is eating ice cream every night. The habit of disease is eating ice cream every night. And the trigger to that is watching TV. Because when you sit down to watch TV, you think, I really want some ice cream, right? That's what your mind says. Or popcorn or candy or, you know, whatever. And so it'll have you list out each one of those things. Oh, the second one, habit of disease, eating candy at your desk. And the trigger, what triggers you to do that is my boss yelling at me. That's what it says. Maybe you're stressed out. Maybe work or kids or family or whatever has you do those things. So I would just encourage you, even if you don't have time this week to fill all of it out, just look through it so that you can maybe be aware of some of those things this next week. So next week, no reading assignment, but we're going to go through lesson 2 and 3 together. And I also had, this week I ordered Dr. Anderson's Habits of Health, the video series, and I just started watching it, and it goes along with this. So if I can figure out how to put it on my computer and then share my screen with you, I'm going to do that next week. Not the whole thing because they're a little bit long, but I might try to take just a couple bits and pieces from the video to be able to use as we go along through this. So we still have a few minutes left. Does anybody want to share maybe anything that they've learned or that they're looking forward to learning? through this study? Or maybe just anybody want to share about your week? I know some of you just started, have only been on plan for like a week or two. So we're excited that you're on here and that you're starting your journey out so soon with Habits of Health. I think that's awesome. It's kind of made to do it that way, but sometimes it doesn't always happen that way, and that's okay. Sometimes we reach our healthy weight and then we do it. So the order isn't necessarily important, but I know that it will help you the sooner that you start. So does anybody want to share? I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.